Hey guys, it is Jordy from Seven Eagle Group. I've been helping military veterans and transitioning service members for 10 years now. That's thousands of veterans we come in contact with and uh, job seekers. And every now and then I come across someone who just absolutely knocks it out of the box, does all the right things. And today's guest is Devin Gerdes. He's a 4-year Marine. He was a transmission systems operator, lives out in Fort Collins. And he participated with us here at Seven Eagle Group for his skill bridge. And I knew he would get hired instantly and had a lot of different offers. And he decided to go with Lockheed Martin. And I wanted to have Devin on today because he does everything right. He handled himself perfectly, so squared away, did and said all the things you'd expect to see out of a top recruit. And I think there are a lot of great lessons that he can share with other people who are struggling or confused or just don't know how to handle their transition and things to do. So anyway, we got a lot to talk about. But Devin, thank you, buddy, for jumping on today.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having me here. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, let's get right into it, man. Tell everyone a little bit about your background. You know, where'd you grow up? What made you decide to join the Corps? What was that experience like? All that stuff.
All right. So I grew up in Maui, Hawaii for the good majority of my life. And then I moved to Wyoming about halfway through high school. From there, I never really kind of had a direction with where I wanted to go. I knew I wanted to go into like a tech programming, something with computers. It's been involved in my life for as long as I can remember. And I didn't really have a direction. So I joined the Marine Corps on the basis of like, well, they provide like, direction, discipline, good life skills, kind of like helping me set a path for myself. And I'm like, okay, that's pretty good. From there, I chose communications mainly because I wanted to do networking and system administration, but I didn't turn out that way. I got radio operator. I still utilize those skills as a radio operator in terms of planning, how to manage networks, or just manage communication systems in general, and how to communicate with other people. From there, I kind of explored different areas of IT, computer science, and I kind of really fell in love with networking since it was one of the skills that I was around heavily. From there, I started working on my associate's degree with Purdue University Global, and I started working towards more of my civilian certs. I got my Security Plus of January this year. I got my Network Plus in May. And then from there, I just kind of kept that self-study train going. I wanted to do Skill Bridge, and one of my buddies, he was like, hey, I'm doing a Skill Bridge with Seven Eagle. You should check them out. And I'm really thankful that he kind of recommended me that. And I was really, really happy that I had this opportunity to be with Seven Eagle for my Skill Bridge. And then during the Skill Bridge, I just kept that self-study, self-training kind of grind going. I eventually got my CCNA, my latest achievement. I got my CCNA July of this year. So mainly just kind of going through that.
When did you start thinking about your transition? How soon before you knew you were getting out did you start saying, okay, I better start getting my stuff in order here?
I think I really started getting my stuff together when I was on the 26 MU and I got sent back to my original unit. I think that's when I really started like looking at my transition. Okay, what do I need to do to be successful outside the Marine Corps? What sort of education do I need to kind of have before getting out? And that's why I actually really started started working on college or my college credit or like civilian certifications.
Yeah. And why did you, what did you do? Talk people through like, okay, you figured out, okay, I'm going to be getting out, whatever, in 6 months, a year. What were some of the things, what are some of those steps that you did to get yourself ready? What research did you do?
So the Marine Corps offered a lot of technical training through their like on-base courses. And I went to a lot of those courses trying to figure out like, okay, what part of like IT and technology do I really want to be around? And that's what I really found out. Like, okay, I want to do networking. So it was a lot of like self-research of like, okay, what does a lot of network engineers have? Or like, what does like networking entail? So I started doing I saw like CompTIA had like Network Plus, A Plus, all their entry-level security. I started looking through their entry level certifications and kind of just a baseline of what I needed to do. And then from there, I'm like, okay, skill bridge. It would actually bridge that gap between having those skills in the Marine Corps and then also then being able to have those civilian skills and having that civilian work experience and getting a job immediately out of the Marine Corps instead of having to go to college or go to additional places and having more time outside the Marine Corps where I don't have that support.
Yeah. But the lesson there, you didn't do this last minute. You didn't reach out to me. Hey, I'm getting out in a couple days. Can I come do a skill bridge? You were well prepared, which I loved. But the reason I wanted to have you on today is you do all the easy things perfectly, right? And when I say easy things, we're going to talk about them, what you do. There is no doubt there are more skilled people than you out there. But there are not a lot of people in the country who get hired by Lockheed Martin, right? So you impress them the way you impress me and everybody else here at Seven Eagle by doing these easy things. Like we'd have meetings, you're always the first in, you never miss one. You ask questions, these easy, talk about that. Like, why do you do that? Why did you show up to every session? It sounds crazy, but why did you do that?
Right. Well, I mean, I think like the main motivation for that is like, I'm here. I signed up for this. I'm going to be here. I mean, the Marine Corps kind of helped with that. Like I'm part of like I show up 15 minutes early. I bring everything I need to do. If we have like a event or something that we need to have that needs to have happen, I'm like, okay, what are the main details of it? Am I missing anything? What do I need to do to be successful? It's like, I'm here for a reason. I wanted to be here. I'm going to do the things that are asked of me, and I'm going to do the things that make me successful.
Yeah. It was almost like, I know you were saying this in the back of your head. It's like, get out of the way, man. I am going to have a career that's going to go like that. I don't care what it takes. There could be people who are brighter than me or more talented, but they're not going to have my toughness and my desire to just get done what I need to get done, you know?
And on the side of that, though, I do want like other people, like with the people that I'm with in those video calls and the meetings that we have like twice a week. I'm like, I want them to be successful as well. I don't want to like just like climb up other people's, like, you know, I want to bring others with me. Like I want other people to like, you know, be successful, have that kind of drive to like build their career. And like, I'm like, hey, if I find something, I'm not going to gatekeep it. I'm like, hey, like with what we were talking one time with the Security Plus, I shared my training methods or what I use to kind of get my Security Plus in like about 2-3 weeks. And hopefully that will work for other people.
Yeah. No, you were always extremely supportive of your brothers and sisters going through these, you know, this process as well. And that's why everyone liked you so much, you know. But, you know, we'd be on a video call with, you know, 25 skill bridgers, you know, with a guest speaker. 24 of the cameras are off and yours is on, you know. Why did you do that?
It kind of made it feel, because like if someone's speaking to me or like they're having a guest speaker, I kind of like try to equivalate that. Okay, I know it's a Zoom call, but I feel like if, you know, they're coming to like, you know, a group of people, like I want to show that like, hey, I'm listening, I'm watching, like you're like, I appreciate your time being here. I appreciate you having like the guest speakers you have, they didn't have to come on and like, you know, talk to us. So I'm like, okay, I really appreciate that you're like sharing this knowledge. And then with the questions, I'm like, okay, well, I do want to learn more. I'm here again, like I'm here to learn. I'm here to like get this knowledge. So I kind of want to like build those connections.
No, it's great. I mean, I have one particular instance this summer. You know, when you're arranging these guest speakers to come on as me, I'm always like, oh God, I hope people are going to ask questions. You know, because when they get to the end, they say, all right, who has anything for me? And I could always count on Devin to ask a question, and I just love that about you. That you were so engaged with everything we did and with the guest speaker. And I know it wasn't flattery. I know it was genuine. You were asking great questions. We had one guy in a former CISO from AT&T who did a lecture once, or a discussion with our crew one day. And Devin was the only one with his camera on, the only one to ask a question. And at the end of when everyone left and we stayed on, he said to me, man, who was that guy? That guy, Devin, man, what a go-getter. I was like, you barely know this guy. But that's how people make impressions over job seekers based on these little things that they do that just are so impactful. And you got it, man. You got it going on. And I would highly recommend you just keep, I know you're going to keep doing those things throughout your career. Talk about LinkedIn now. You know, I know you're a big fan of LinkedIn. Talk about some tips, some suggestions that you can give to other transitioning service members on how they can leverage that platform to their benefit the way you did.
So my advice with that would be, I started working on my LinkedIn after I started the skill bridge. I think that first day that we were looking through LinkedIn, you had a lot of suggestions for mine. I had a lot of different things that needed working on, and I've made those changes. So I think just like actually like focusing on your LinkedIn. So I know like the Marine Corps, I don't know what other branches version of this is, but with TRS, they give you those advice. Or like, hey, go on your LinkedIn. It's like a passing comment, but honestly, like one thing I would have done differently is worked on my LinkedIn more. I'd say about 9 to 6 months before getting out or going on SkillBridge, because by that point, you're already establishing an image for yourself. You're talking about your achievements. You're listing your certifications. You're documenting your journey as time goes on. So that way, like RE recruiters kind of see you, or they start like seeing that like, okay, this person's getting out. They're building these skills. They're working on this. Hey, let me talk to them. And with building your network, a lot of the advice you gave me, I'm just going to like repeat verbatim of like, get connections up, look in your area and find people who are in that similar job field. A lot of the times I was just saying like, hey, I'm a transitioning service member. I'm getting out. Like I'm going into this field. I would love to connect and like build the main thing that I said was like build a community. Like I like building a group of people like, hey, I'm having trouble with this. Like, hey, I need a job with this or something on like career related, and I can have those people. And then from there, it was all about the informational interviews. I've talked to several people. A lot of them have helped me. Some of them have like reposted my information on LinkedIn. And there's a lot of helpful people out there. There's other veterans who have gone through this process and say, hey, I know where you're at. I've been there before. Let me help you out. Like, here's some resources. Here's some things that can like help. Like, there's a lot of useful people, like useful things out there, a lot of helpful people. It's all about just like reaching out and just building.
Talk about that informational interview. A lot of people don't understand what that is or what to do. Talk about how you use that strategy to get you in front of a lot of people who you could network with.
So it was a bit worrying at first, like informational interviews. I'm like, hey, I just want to like talk to you. I didn't know how to present it at first. The first one was I was a little nervous. I was a little ill prepared. I didn't know the full kind of what I was trying to ask for. So it was a little rough, but after like the second or third one, I kind of honed in on what I wanted to talk about. It's like, hey, just like friendly at first, like, hey, where are you from? Like, what are your interests? What are your hobbies? Like, get like a personal connection first. And then kind of go into the, okay, what is your career path? What is your like job entail? How did you get to where you are now? And then I more or less focused on like, what are some important skills that you use? What are some like soft and hard skills that would be useful? And then just kind of getting to know that person, honestly. And then that's only half of it, like getting to know them and then getting to understand those skills and where they're at and what. Did
you find people you reached out to with this request of basically just, hey, I'd love to have a chat. I'm getting out soon and love to hear your advice, your story. Did you find most people were receptive to giving you an audience and to meeting on Zoom or meeting in person? Or were some people say like, get out of here, kid, leave me alone?
Oh, no, not at all. A lot of people who I've reached out with, they're like, oh yeah, sure, I would love to. Or like, oh, that sounds interesting. Like I would like be happy to interview. Just what time would you want to do it, or like when you would want to do it. I would get some people who just kind of like leave me on red or ghost me with that, but that's like few and far between, like one or two that I can even think of. It's very common for people. If you're on LinkedIn, it's very common for like, hey, let me help you out. Like, hey, like it's a job networking site. They're going to be people to be helpful.
Yeah, no doubt. You're not asking them for a job. You're not giving them your resume. You're going after vets, after civilians, just people who you feel would be interesting to hear their stories and most importantly, hear their advice for you. And often those lead to great connections that can result in a hire or something like that for you. Talk about now, interviewing. You do an outstanding interview, because we did a lot of practice, a lot of role playing, and you picked it up instantly. Talk about some of your favorite tips that you can offer people on things to keep in mind when they're about to head off on these interviews. A lot of people have never really been on a job interview before. Talk about what advice would you have for others?
Some of the advice that kind of got me through things were like asking yourself, obviously going through and like reviewing the most common questions and just kind of building that answer for yourself. Like, okay, what are my weaknesses? What are my, what would you do in this situation? For like, at least in my field, at least, troubleshooting or very technical questions that have a very broad answer that just doesn't have one answer that I'm looking for. A lot of these like interviews are trying to see your thought process and how you handle like tasks and pressure. If you what I would do, like for example, just right there, if I didn't have the words, if I didn't have an answer, I would kind of pause and think about it instead of just kind of going with whatever came to my mind. And I got some interviews where I got like a question just out of the blue just to see how I would handle like something I wasn't expecting. And a lot of that was just, okay, stop, think for a minute, and then answer. Kind of like you have time to gather yourself. It's not they're asking for like real quick. You have time to like prepare yourself and really have time to think. So don't get it in your head about it.
Yeah. But as you mentioned, like prepare your answers, right? How many different interview questions in general do you think you're going to get, right? Are they choosing from 1,000 interviews or questions? Or are they choosing from like 10 questions, right? You know what they're going to come at you with, right?
Right.
What?
Then, like,
go ahead.
But I was saying with that, like having like understanding what the question is. You can ask, another thing is like at least more technical, you can ask questions about the question. So like if I got like, what is this terminology? Like what does this do? And then you can say like, hey, do you want just a basic answer? Or do you want me to go, how in depth do you want me to go? Like what kind of details do you want about this?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, listen, you can pretty much guarantee you're going to get a question. Tell me about yourself at the start of the interview. You're going to get some question about like, why do you want to work here? Some question about like, what makes you a good employee, right? And it amazes me how many people they're sitting in the interview for the first time and they're just like, oh crap, how am I going to answer this now? And they're sweating and their palms are wet, when you can prepare ahead of time. Talk, Devin, about the storytelling idea on how to answer some of these questions and how to prepare for that. Why that could help you in an interview.
So with the story building, you kind of want to build the importance of what you're doing. So like, for example, with the like, tell me about yourself. You want to build like, okay, so I came from this background. I worked on this, and like the importance of that, and just kind of like build, like keep the details important to like what's important to the interview. Like, okay, this job, like I worked on this. I have this education. I worked through this. These are some of the qualities about me throughout my life experience. And it just builds on your resume. Like, okay, this person is like, they can explain their resume. They can show their experiences. Like this is an actual like person who's gone through things. And then with, for example, one of the questions we really worked on was like, what is a challenge that you had to overcome? Like actually building that story of like, okay, I was in this situation. This was my role. This is what was happening. This was the problem, and this is how I worked through it, and this was the result of it. Actually painting a full picture for the people who are interviewing you so they can like fully grasp like what you've accomplished.
Spot on. Yeah. A lot of people make the mistake with these questions though, they'll just give them a quick answer like, oh, I'm very persistent. I can solve any challenge. That's not the same as what Devin's saying, where he thought of a great example from his military experience that conveyed that how he's a persistent and a hard worker and all that. So instead of just saying, hey, I'm a hard worker, follow that up with, there was this one time when I was serving, and then paint that picture for the interviewer so they can really put the pieces together and say, wow, this guy's top notch. I'm going to read. We got one of our viewers, Charming's, asking a question. He said, one of the best things to do before an interview for this question, I tell my Marines to write down things they are good at things they want to improve at about their lives, and things that they've seen others in their position fail at. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Tell me, write down the things that are, yeah, that's great. Just these things you could you could practice in front of a mirror with friends ahead of time, answers to all these questions, and then figure out how to get these answers into your interview when you get there, you know? Um, so tell us a little about Lockheed, what you're going to be doing there. You're going to be doing network engineering. How friggin' exciting was that for you to be courted by Lockheed? Not a you chasing them. They were chasing you. They were calling me, asking me, hey, what's this guy Devin like? He's really impressed us. What was that feeling like for you? I mean, this is one of the best companies in the world.
I was very shocked to get that, to receive that call. Like, so the first thing was I was studying for my CCNA at the university library, and I got a call, and they're like, "Hey, Devin, we saw your application, we saw your credentials. Like, we really want to like interview you. We're willing to teach you more technical skills and like kind of help you guide you along." And I'm like, I was shocked that they even replied to me, because the fun fact about that was I just applied on their website. It was one of those like apply moments, which I don't recommend. That's another story. But I got that call, and I was even shocked that they reached out to me. I'm like, okay, I'll have that interview. A month goes by. The interview has not one person, but 3 people. So I was a little nervous at first, but after the interview, they said one of the people on the interviewing team reached out to me, added me on LinkedIn, and they said they really enjoyed my interview. They I answered the questions really well, and they really liked me. And I'm like, oh wow, that's amazing. Hopefully that I get this job. And then a week later, I got the call saying, hey, we emailed you an offer. Congratulations, by the way. We're looking forward to hearing from you. And I was with my partner at the time, and both of us, I looked at her with like the biggest smile on my face, and like I hung up, she hugged me. It was amazing. It was like a moment out of a movie, honestly.
Hey, dude, that's like having like Harvard on your resume, or Stanford. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. And one lesson to take away from that, even though Devin did enough to get them to sort of bite and check him out, they called me right after your first interview, right? And I probably spent half an hour with them on the phone, right? And if you all you job seekers out there, make sure you have somebody who's going to be in your corner, who's going to give a detailed recommendation. Detailed, right? Not, yes, he worked here, I can't say anything else about him for legal reasons. That doesn't work. You need somebody who's going to talk to them and and it's got to be a good recommendation. Make sure, don't just put down people randomly. You got to make sure that this person thinks highly of you, and you've had some experiences there that he or she can talk about. So when Lockheed called me and I spent half an hour on the phone with them, it doesn't take a lot after a good recommendation for someone to get an offer, right? So you got to make sure you build those, and the way to build those is to do what Devin did: go out and have informational interviews with people who are going to go to bat for you. It's so crucial, right? He did 99% of the work, and then the recommendation comes in at the end and, brings it across the goal line for him. But you need that, right? And I guarantee you they checked out his LinkedIn page. I guarantee they tried to research more info on him, see what was written, about him. Companies like Lockheed do not give out job offers to just anyone. Trust me. And as I said, Devin, and you're the first to admit it, there are people a lot more skilled than you with many more experiences as network engineers. But these companies, most of them hire for the attitude, and they could train for the skills, right? It's very easy to train a guy like Devin, who is coachable and eager to learn, to teach him anything, he'll learn it. Just like you said, you were in the library studying for more certs, right?
Right.
He didn't need more certs to get hired. He could have got hired without more. But the fact that he kept going, those are the little things that impresses someone like me, who's been around thousands of job seekers and thousands of hiring managers and CEOs. I know what people want, and they want this guy, right? Duplicate some of the stuff that he is doing, and don't worry about anything in your past. Just do these easy things that he's doing. and you will have a great career. And you could pick a place, pick your path, and you end up like at a place like Lockheed and not a place that's going to be some crappy job, right? All right. So I know, Devin, you are such a generous person. Would it be all right if anyone who is listening to this, can they connect you on LinkedIn and reach out to you and maybe even set up a time where they can chat if they want more info?
Oh, yes, of course. I would love to share my LinkedIn. I don't know if there's like a chat or anywhere I could just share the link to it, or
We'll put it in. Yeah, we'll put it in. They
Okay.
could find him. Just that's his name, Devin Gerdes. You search that, you'll see him on LinkedIn. I don't think there are other Devin Gerdeses out there.
No,
He's in Fort Collins. Hey, buddy, I can't thank you enough for giving back to the community the way you do. You're an awesome guy, and more importantly, I can't wait to see where your career is going to end up. And when I have a feeling you're going to be running a company like Lockheed one day. So keep cranking. You're an inspiration, I know, to me and to a lot of other people. So thank you again, buddy.
Oh, thank you. And also, again, thank you for giving me, honestly, like with 7 Eagle Group and like the skill bridge, thank you for giving me the tools, the opportunities, and like the knowledge, like kind of really hone my skills and really get this opportunity. So like, thank you. And thank you for having me up here.
You're welcome, man. You're welcome. Keep going, bud. Thanks everyone for listening.
All right. Have a good day.